Splatoon 3 was revealed on February 17th, 2021 and released over a year later on September 9th, 2022. The build-up to release was a time I'll never forget, with the community growing and hype intensifying every day. With it being exactly 1 year since release, does this multiplayer game of the year still deserve the love and attention it gets, or is this the worst Splatoon game in the series? Let's start with the updates. Splatoon 3 handles them in seasons. Most modern games do this now to incentivize people to play the game constantly. Splatoon 3 handles it in a very mixed way. Nothing is inherently exclusive to a season. When weapons, gear, and maps are added, you can use these things even after the season ends, and even in this game's battle pass, called the catalog, nothing here is exclusive because everything here can be won in the shellout machine or bought in shops. I enjoy this method of a battle pass system because it incentivizes people to play, but also doesn't ban you from ever getting these items again. I want Fortnite's Visitor and Scientist skins, but I can never get them because they're battle pass exclusive skins from Chapter 1. But that's not something I have to worry about in Splatoon, because they give you ample opportunities to obtain items even if some are gacha. However, while this system of updates is solid in that department, the biggest issue with them is that the rest of the content is kind of lacking. The game's release was fantastic, with every base weapon from Splatoon 2 returning, 12 stages, and a big selection of gear. This set up for each season to have tons of content with them to make each worthwhile, and the fan base to not get bored of the game. However, the opposite has happened, where we get less and less content each update. There's still over 20 weapons that don't have second kits in this game a year into the game's life. Some people are gonna have to wait a year and a half to play their favorite weapon with a different kit, which to me is absurd. The Gold Dynamo, a weapon that was in the first trailer of the game and even on the box art, was just added. I'm sorry, but making kits and reskins of weapons is not that hard, and by this point, we should have had second kits for all of the weapons. That way, the second year of the game's life could have been reserved for third kits, so that way, every weapon in this game could have third kits, because both Splatoon 1 and 2 only had a handful of weapons with third kits. Gear is also something they aren't consistent about. 2 of the updates have been plentiful with gear, and the last 2 have only added the gear in the catalog, which means they're comfortable doing the bare minimum. The stages have been the only consistent addition to this game because we always get 2 stages for each update, and while we're on the topic of stages, they're trash. There's no flanks, basic layouts, or inkable walls. They added 2 cool pieces of tech, the Squid Roll and Squid Surge, but they never utilize them. There's an entire skip in the tutorial level of this game that has you utilize both of these movement tools, yet they openly block these types of movements in multiplayer stages. It's confusing and makes no sense. These devs can make good maps. Pretty much the entire community agrees that the 2 newest stages, Crab Leg Capital and Ship Shape Cargo, are fantastic and some of the best stages in this game by far. They're open, have actual flanks and different routes other than a straight line to mid, there's inkable walls, and the terrain is great. They are both amazing. Then we have Mincemeat, the absolute worst stage in Splatoon history. I don't care what Salt Spray haters say, this shit is the worst. Because I'm in competitive though, my perception of the stages is a lot more critical. Casuals and younger players of this game might not care about these stages though, because when I was younger, I loved Salt Spray and Moray, so who knows? A kid watching this video might love Mincemeat. We'll eventually get map reworks, they've done it in every game, but what we have now is pretty tough to work with. The weapons, on the other hand, are fantastic to work with. Just 6 months ago, we were in triple crab hell with 3 Splash Machine. Now, tons of weapons are viable thanks to their system for nerfs and buffs, and the fact that tons of weapons have very solid kits in this game. Don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of weaker weapons and shitty kits, but they took their time with nerfing and buffing things instead of overtuning whatever they touched in previous games. It's gotten us to a point where the only thing you really need on your team is a cooler weapon. Otherwise, you can run pretty much whatever you want as long as your comp enables it. It's such a refreshing spot to be in because each team looks different instead of everyone being slaves to Splash, which I really did not like. But okay, I've talked about competitive for long enough, let's talk about things I don't think I ever have on this channel, and that's this. The world Splatoon has is expansive and built upon quite well, but it also felt a bit empty. In Splatoon 1, the plaza looked great, but it was also overly open with very little to do. In Splatoon 2, it also felt like there wasn't much to do, but it was way too small. Splatoon 3 decided to return to the issues Splatoon 1 had, but made them positives instead. Splatsville is jam-packed with details and world building, making this place feel like a living city. You have jellyfish doing jobs, a road system under buildings, multiple shops, different floors, and tons of people around with different emotions. As much nostalgia as I have for the plaza, Splatsville clears the previous title's hub worlds easily. Again, there might not be too much to actually do when walking around, like what the f is the point of this random ass alley or this walkway that leads to literally nothing that for some reason you can't jump off of, but it's cool and I like it. It makes this place feel natural and not just here's everything you can do conveniently laid out in front of you. Each character this world has was also built upon drastically. Merch has grown up, Lil Judd is evil and now operates Grizzco, allegedly, the Squid Sisters are back together, conveniently, and Deep Cut is by far the best idol group we've gotten. One of my favorite things about them is the fact that they keep releasing music. We've gotten multiple new tracks since launch with them in it instead of having a few tracks when the game launches and that's it. It makes them feel more like an idol group instead of one-hit wonders. They're also a big part of the story mode, leading us to this video's next section. This game's story mode is perfect and I cannot stress that enough. There's a short tutorial area that shows newcomers how to play, there are actual cutscenes and lore and world building, and the levels aren't too difficult, and some have interesting gimmicks and others make use of cool mechanics the series offers, and the final boss was by far the coolest in the series. And don't even get me started on the music because it's fantastic. In fact, this entire game offers amazing music, and if you haven't played the story mode, you're doing yourself a disservice because it is perfect. I don't want to elaborate on anything I said there though, because I plan on making a video covering the story mode in the future, meaning you should subscribe to see it. So for now, know it's fantastic and clears the already amazing Octo expansion. Splatoon 3 also has its fair share of LTMs and special events, but much like how the game handles seasons, these are a very mixed bag. For one, Splatfest is not everyone's forte. It's just turf war for 2 days with really shitty matchmaking. I love the atmosphere and competition it brings, but I can't argue with others when they say that they want the formula changed. Tricolor is a cool idea and I do enjoy it, but I wish it was an actual three-way turf war and not two teams of 2 and a team of 4 all fighting against each other. But the teams of 2 are also supposed to work together because they both somewhat win if one of them wins. It's confusing, but okay. However, I will say that it's an improvement over Shifty Stations because that shit was never fun. Wow, a new map every Splatfest with unique gimmicks, except the maps were almost always too small and very underdeveloped. Yeah, I never liked Shifty Station. I think Tricolor clears it in every way. It offers a unique way to play turf with an actual objective, but the issue is that it's still turf at the end of the day and it only lasts for half of the 2-day fest. And yeah, having 3 teams for Splatfest was a cool concept, but a lot of times there is a huge gap in popularity for some teams. So overall, Splatfest has a lot of issues, but I still enjoy it. It has a relaxing but competitive vibe to it with great music, and it's always cool to see the community come together to compete for their favorite team. On the other side of the spectrum, we have this challenges are the most dog shit thing to come in this entire series for 2 easily avoidable reasons. For one, these are extremely limited. I get LTMs lasting for a day or so, sometimes longer, but each challenge only lasts for 6 hours in 2-hour intervals. And if you miss it, then that's it. I can't think of a single good reason for them to do this, and it's by far the worst decision they made for this mode. Why not have them be open for a day or so, and when one challenge is over, the next one starts? I guarantee that no one would complain if it was like this. And the same challenges could just be rotated in and out. I thought they learned their lesson with Salmon Run from Splatoon 2 going to 3, but I guess not. Hopefully Splatoon 4 fixes it though, because I sure as hell know they won't make that change in this game. But the second worst thing about this mode is the fact that this is the replacement for League. Not open, this. this is what League became. And no, Open does not replace League because you can play it solo and get paired against a coordinated team. I've already made a video about this, so go watch that once you're done with this, but god, the fact that they didn't just add League, have Open, and make challenges its own fucking thing is beyond me. But on the bright side, Salmon Run got 2 special event modes that are both really good, Big Run and Extra Work. Big Run is much like Splatfest, except the opposite feeling. Instead of festivities and fun, it's dreadful and invokes panic. And an entire species of bloodthirsty fish are invading the mainland. But like Splatfest, this event lasts for 2 days and rewards teams with the most golden eggs. And you get to play on multiplayer stages because they're literally getting invaded by the salmonids. It's such a cool concept with great execution, and the same can be said for Extra Work. This is also a 2-day event with 5 waves, each predetermined beforehand, and the goal is to collect the most golden eggs for a prize at the end. This mode is unique, and I like how you have to strategize on how to optimally get the most golden eggs in each wave. Oh, and while I'm on the topic of Salmon Run, the mode returned from Splatoon 2 better than ever. It lasts 24/7 now, and the stages are excellent minus you, and the new weapons and bosses are pretty solid. Oh, and let's talk about the drip this game has, because honestly, it's one of my favorite parts about this game. I've always gone for drip in these games over abilities, which is why my Splatoon 1 and 2 gear consisted of—
what the f*** is this piece of shit?
But here, they let you edit both the primary and secondary abilities of gear, meaning I can still go for drip over abilities and have good abilities. And while grinding for chunks and money is a bit too tedious, even for someone who has almost 2,000 hours in this game, making gear is still an enjoyable process for me. And when I finally finish a build, it makes it all the more satisfying to use it in matches. But man, as someone who likes clothes IRL and wears a ton of different styles and clothes each day, this game has drip. It also has not drip, but the drip in character customization is really good, and even though it's damn near perfect, there is still so much more they could add to make it peak. Even splash tags and lockers add more customization options that didn't need to be there, but they are, and I love them. It makes the start of a match and the actual match much more enjoyable than before, and while lockers are something people tend to forget about, they're an excellent side addition that I enjoy messing around with every couple of months since there's so much you can actually do with these things. So yeah, everything in this game is a step up from previous titles. The graphics, hub worlds, weapons, lore, menus, details, table turf, there is so much to talk about with this game that I just can't fit in a video that I have 1 week to edit. Splatoon 3 is almost everything I've ever wanted out of a Splatoon game. Despite all the baffling decisions the developers behind the game make, the core experience and gameplay are just so good that they aren't felt too much. Yeah, the maps are awful, but the movement and gameplay is fantastic, and I still enjoy myself unless I'm playing on some dogshit rotation. But in a year's time, this issue, along with not enough kits, lack of new content, and other small things, will be fixed. Probably. I have faith that the final version of Splatoon 3 will be a masterpiece, and really at that point, the only thing holding it back will be the absolutely asinine netcode.